Welcome to Around the ACL. Michelle Thompson here with Trey Ryder and Wally K9 Castler. And we are coming off of signature number 6. That was our last signature of the season. So we definitely are going to talk about rankings now that the 2 lowest have been dropped. We can get a true idea of who are our top 10 singles and doubles teams. So before we get into that, we're going to recap all that happened this weekend in Virginia. And I can't wait to get into it. I wasn't there, but I watched everything I could. It was fun listening to all my teammates over there, and did get to tune into the broadcast as well. So it was rare. I got to catch you and Jeff, Trey. I never get to do that. I'm always there. So it was fun.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. It
Yeah.
was a long weekend. It was a long weekend for sure of TV. So
Yeah,
it was
felt for you
great.
guys. I could remember back when I was sideline reporting, you finished that first 2-hour broadcast. You're like, okay. And you're like, oh my goodness, I have a whole nother 2-hour broadcast.
Yeah, that's
That's
how it
pretty
kind of
tough.
was. Like that, it hit me. It was nice with teams because I had like a 30-minute break, or I get up, walk around. It was about 20 minutes, so I had a little bit. But the back-to-back ESPN shows, it was great because the first 2 hours I was like, let's go, love this. The matches were great. And then it was like, okay, not only was that all right, I felt good, but then I was like, okay, in doubles, we got like these superstars, like just the best in the world. And I'm not gonna lie, the first 2 matches, which was juniors and seniors, it was a lot of reserved personalities and a lot of running bags. And I was just like, like the first couple,
You're like, give me
I
something,
needed,
guys.
yeah, give me something. Luckily, there was a good ending to the juniors that brought me up a little bit, and then when we got into doubles, it was revitalizing. But yeah, it's a different world.
It was round limited, which does make it a little bit easier. At least you can kind of predict how long these will take, especially for the live stream team. Those are long days. Wally, what'd you think?
Yeah, it was kind of fun. I actually we got done early on Saturday, so they were like, "If you tear down today, you got nothing to do tomorrow." So I'm like, "Oh, we're tearing everything down today."
Yeah.
So me and Corey took down every single thing. We put it in the back. We got it stored and ready to go. But that left Sunday, so of course, Corey wants to go back over there and do more work. That's Corey for you. So he went over there and did some computer work and helped the broadcast a little bit. But I actually finally had a chance to watch it live on TV for the first time, which it's actually kind of weird thinking about that I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and that's the first time I got to watch the broadcast live, because usually I'm either there or we're finally tearing down, we're getting ready to go out to eat or something like that. So it was kind of fun to see how it was going there. I think I messaged you about the audio cutting out, because like during the intro, like Trey's talking, and like there's a couple of moments where he's speaking, and then like he says like an F word, but it's not a cuss word, but it's blurred out. And I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Like Trey's getting wild on live feed today. So yeah, it was kind of interesting, but I think that was just the hotel, because when I watched TV later, it had an issue with the audio as well. But yeah, it was pretty cool to actually sit at home and watch it. I'm with Trey at the beginning. I was like, oh, great match. I think it was like 11-11. And then Sarah and Sam was kind of a stinker. And then another great match. But yeah, we just need some personalities out there. Gabriel Clausen, I don't know if he just didn't realize he won it, but no smile, no expression whatsoever. I was so happy for my guy Steve to finally win it and show some expression. But all in all, I think it was a fun weekend. It was great to get behind the mic, and it was a nice little teaser as I head back to Virginia next week for the final K9 unit live feed at the Augusta County Regional. Heather and Tevin are hosting me out there, so a lot of hype out in Virginia here for K9, and it's a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
It was definitely just your audio. Mine worked fine. So good job, ESPN. Big exposure for us to be on
Yeah.
ESPN, not two, not you, not plus, but the regular big ESPN, and then some MLB drama with us on there. So shout out to you guys out there. I know all of our MLB listeners, it's tons of you. So sorry we took over
It
a
was
little
great
bit.
on both ends because Wimbledon wasn't done. And so Wimbledon got bumped to ABC, right? Which, let's be real, that's an upgrade, right? To go from ESPN to ABC, like it's a much larger audience. So it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't like moving channels, but I'll take the upgraded audience type of thing. So we had the good lead in from Wimbledon, and then yeah, we stepped on the toes a little bit of the MLB All Star Game selection show, which is hilarious because for those who don't know, our chief business officer for the ACL is Alicia Mullen, and Alicia worked at Major League Baseball for like 16 years. And so she was in a group chat with all of her former colleagues, and they were just, welcoming to the big time, right? Because we bumped MLB by a few minutes. So I thought it was great.
Go Cornhole. Appreciate the publicity. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start off with pro doubles. That was Mark Richards and Tony Smith. I mean, surprise, surprise. It's getting boring, Trey. It's just getting boring.
I don't look. That version too was like, ooh, like so good, scary, and boring. Like, we had to manufacture storylines. Like, Mark Richards was doing anything that he wanted, including on that broadcast court. I mean, that one cut collect that he had just around bags and just tripped in perfectly, nothing else moves. Like, when he's throwing at that level, it's like, yikes. And so much. They played so well. Now, mind you, that was now their 6th tournament win in the last 9 tournaments that they've played in, which is gross. They won 3 of the 6 signatures. The only losses in that 9 tournament span were 3 of the 6 signatures. Mind you, they came in second in one of them, right? So we're talking about making the finals in 7 of the last 9. I mean, guys are just outrageously good. And so it got to the point where we started asking ourselves, and I'm interested to hear, like, if you guys agree, if Mark and Tony don't win the world championships, is it a choke? Like, are they that good right now that they should just win the world championships? And that should just be a foregone conclusion that they should win. And if they don't, does that actually hurt their legacy?
I think it does. It's my pick. I mean, how do they not?
Well, here's the thing is I saw mistakes from everybody except for Mark and Tony. Like, what Mark, like, whenever Tony had a mistake, Mark is like, yeah, it's fine. It's only 2 points. We're scoring 7s per round right now. It's like, what is 2 points? So, like, you have to be 100% on your A game from start to finish to be able to even have a chance against Mark and Tony right now. I hated the whole, is this the best doubles team that we've ever seen in existence debate that Jake tried to run with. And I have come full circle on that. I am 100% sold. They are the greatest doubles team to ever play cornhole until I see different. And I think I'm going to have to see the number 1 and the number 2 for like 3 years team up and win 14 out of 17 tournaments to change my mind on that, because I was 100% against the greatest team in the world, and now it's I don't see how you can bet on anyone else.
They're too dominant. And I don't even like Tony in round limited usually.
Right. It's almost like one of those things where it's like, okay, I hate giving that without them winning the world championship, right? But if you have Mark and Tony up against 2023 Caleb Batson and Eddie Grindersleeve, is there a world in which you would even sniff taking Eddie and Caleb? I wouldn't. I mean, I just think they're just outrageously good right now. So yeah,
to piggyback on that, I feel like when Eddie and KB kept winning, it was surprising. Like, we were like, wow, they did it again. Wow, they did it again. Like, Mark and Tony, it's surprising if they don't. So I feel like it's a different level than KB and Eddie.
I mean, we're going to get to a point where, let's say they win the world championships. Do you say you're never going to see a team like this again? I mean, we might be broaching that level of territory, right? Because in order to be better, so if they win the world championships, that means they will have won 7 of the last 10 tournaments that they played in? Made the finals in 8 of the last 10 that they played in?
A lot's going to have to change too, because I mean, they're committed pros. Like, there's only a handful of committed pros to where they can only focus on this. You look at some of the other teams that are out there. I mean, maybe Gavin and Sammy, if they stay together and they just only play cornhole, but Devin and Jeremiah, they work. I guess Logan and JBJ, but now JBJ's got a kid on the way, so it's like that's going to take up a lot of time. Same thing with Devin.
What about Jamie and Jacob? Does Trzynski work?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, do you really truly believe that any one of those teams can go on a run like Mark and Tony have? Like, to me, I'm almost saying it has to be someone we haven't met yet. 2 years from now, there's a pair of rookies that we don't know right now that Wally Castler, teams up with Michelle Thompson, and
Here we
they just
go.
win. They just win 9 out of 10 events to close the season, right? And it's the greatest, claw grip thrower that we've ever seen in our lives.
Nobody saw it coming.
I just want to prove Anthony wrong. That's my only goal.
I that's what I'm saying. I think it has to be someone new. I do not think you're going to be able to see this from somebody that we already know, and that's U18 included. I mean, the reason Mark and Tony are so good is that, one, they were so good even last year. Everybody says they weren't as good last year. That's true, right? But that's because they're on another planet this year. But last year they were playing together for the first time, and they still finished as team of the year with the most points. They still got that title, right? And that was an off year. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that I just don't see anybody that I see right now that could possibly team up. I mean, if you pick two people in singles rankings right now, do you think that they could gel and finish better than them? I mean, Jamie Graham and Jay Rubin, do they put you put them together? Do all of a sudden they dominate everybody? I don't know, maybe, but I just find it so hard to believe that we're going to be able to that anybody is going to be able to do what they're doing right now.
And I do think that a big part of it, Trey, is Mark Richards' mental game. I think that's where I put them so far beyond everybody else, and that mental game is rubbing off on Tony, at least when they play together. I mean, obviously Tony Smith's second ranking, so he's not doing so bad, but I just feel like Mark Richards brings something to his game and to the people he plays with that I just haven't. It's like Jamie Graham and Jay Rubin, that would be a great team. They're both so good. There's just something different about Mark Richards ever since he entered the pro division.
Yeah, and so I World Championships, as we look forward, as I kind of finish up my thoughts on doubles, just like as we look towards it, it's, to me, and Mark and Tony's to lose. They're now going to be in a smaller bracket. So now you're forgetting, so our World Championship bracket is 24 teams. It's the 20 in the standings plus the 4 in the challenger brackets. Okay? So now that win the 4 challenger brackets. So we're taking that 24 base group, dividing them to 4 brackets. Tony and Mark, to make TV, have to win their bracket of 6 teams. 6.
Wouldn't want to be in that bracket.
No, I don't want to be in that bracket at all. Which means 6. So what's a 16 bracket look like? You get 2 buys. So now they get a bye. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they have to win 1 game to get to the king seat of their bracket. I don't know. Good luck. That's doubles thoughts. Good luck playing Mark and Tony ever.
Wally?
Yeah, so kind of going through the brackets real quick, let's give other teams a little bit of credit as well. Matt Guy and Brett Guy. I mean, yeah, we got to. We could spend the whole 60 minutes talking about, Mark and Tony if we wanted to, but I do want to give some shout outs, like Trevor Kubis and Denny Vaughn. They played really well. I don't expect them to win, but they deserve a little bit of credit off of what they did. Matt Guy and Brett Guy, we got a chance to see them on the live feed, and you talk about the mental game from Mark and Tony. Something about the live feed court messed up Matt Guy and Brett Guy, and it also messed up Quinn Reeves and Austin Wasco. So, those teams came out of, basically what we expected them to do until they got to the live feed court. If we would have played that championship match off, who knows? Maybe they could have done something. But if you look at the brackets, Matt Guy and Brett Guy threw well over a 10 every single match, except for the one on the live feed court. And then they go over to losers bracket, and Brett Guy throws an 11.67. Matt Guy throws a perfect game. And the only game that they lost on the loser side, they were eliminated. Matt Guy had the lowest PPR at a 10.67. So, that loser bracket's just tough. That's all there is to it. B bracket was pretty much chalk for the most part. We got AJ Sims, Braden Wilson, They're getting hot at the right time. Jamie Graham, Jake Krasinski, they did what we expected them to do. C bracket, though, Richard Nyberg and Emax, like Richard Nyberg's becoming a force to be reckoned with. And Emax, he's not just another young junior player. He's an elite junior player that we kind of have to keep our eye on as we head into Worlds. The version that I saw of Logan Chamberlain on the singles side of the broadcast, we'll get into singles in just a little bit, was not the same version that we saw in the finals on our championship court. I remember whenever we were talking about, are they good enough to be a number 1 seed in the bracket? Trey and I were both kind of like, I don't know. I don't really feel it. And then they come out and won a signature. They looked dominant the entire day until they ran into a red hot and very verbal Jeremiah Ellis and Devin Harbaugh. And I think the difference is Logan kind of played a little hesitant, almost like he didn't believe in his aerial or his cut wasn't cutting or something. And then when he got to the broadcast court, Jordan Power was chirping as much as he could to the Texas boys. And there was a calm, controlled, I believe in myself, Logan Chamberlain that we saw there. Otherwise, we might be looking at a Logan Chamberlain sweep. I'm not saying they would have beat Mark and Tony, but I think they would have put up a pretty good fight. And then D bracket, Meesh, your Eric Davis, Spencer Fabian, our fantasy team came in clutch. They had a great run. But I do like what I saw out of Sammy Soto and Gavin Cano. And I called Jay Rubin and Ryan Trader to be, taking down this championship. They finally look like they're back. But ultimately, it was Jordan and Cheyenne coming out of that bracket. And it just goes to show how wrong I was about, AJ Sims and Braden Wilson and Jordan Power and Cheyenne Bubenheim. So I apologize to them. They proved me wrong, but I'm actually more excited now because that's more teams that I'm looking forward to as we get into Worlds.
Yeah, do you want to just continue on with Logan's singles performance?
Yeah, so doubles was pretty much all chalk. It's been chalk the entire time. Singles, complete opposite. It was just straight chaos. We didn't have a single number 1 seed make it into the Final Four, which is actually kind of entertaining to watch. But ultimately, we got another taste of Logan Chamberlain. I talked about his confidence level and how he looked there. Trey and Jeff were just waiting for the Logan Chamberlain explosion on Jordan Power, and it never happened. It felt like it was all directed towards Ty Thompson, JBJ, Sammy Soto, and Gavin over on the side. And the whole time, Logan just reaches down, grabs his towel, takes a second, takes a breather. And I think that helped out a lot because Jordan was waiting for a response, I think. And it got to the point where we're in round 8 or 9. And I'm not sure when Jordan gave up that 6 or whatever, but Logan hit a couple good shots, clutch shots to get back into it. And then Jordan started kind of, hey, now you're my buddy, good shot, congratulations, stuff like that. And that changes the entire killer mentality that Jordan Power had going into that game. If he stays, I'm in charge, I'm the best player, I'm loud the entire 12 rounds, I don't know if he misses that final shot. So I do want to give some tip of the caps to Colin Hodette. He shows that he doesn't just do it with rolls. He's throwing high PPRs. And it kind of reminds me of Tony Smith back when he was throwing the very sticky combats. You know what I mean? Tony was able to beat you with a high PPR or a dirty board in front. And speaking of dirty board, as Jeff would say, Josh Holland, but it's actually Derek Holland, was able to hit some great rolls. It was just a weekend of messing up Derek Holland's name. Shout out to Jake Brandon with a great Alex Rawls, shot that he called Derek Holland. So, but no, Derek Holland shows that he's not afraid to play with a messy board. He's got a roll shot now that kind of works. But ultimately, my storyline revolves around Logan Chamberlain's confidence and Jordan Power's airmail. There were 2 or 3 situations where Jordan Power should not have shot an airmail. He's got the game in hand, and he's still shooting the airmail. He's hitting them with confidence, and that's what I like to see is whenever we head into Worlds, who believes in their game the most. And I think right now Jordan Power and Logan Chamberlain have a reason to believe that they can make a lot of noise at the World Championships.
Trey?
Yeah, I was going to kind of piggyback. Logan, it was the mental toughness that I've seen that was different that I've never seen from him before. But I learned a lot from Jordan Power this weekend. And if there's any advice that I would give him is that you've got to come out of this weekend looking at it as a positive and not as a negative because, Jordan Power, if he comes out of this weekend with confidence heading into the World Championship, is a scary person to play when it comes to the World Championships, right? Someone that I don't want to have to try to go toe-to-toe with and could be really deadly to play in either singles or doubles. So if he can continue that momentum, that's really impressive. Colin Hodette, yeah. I mean, the thing is that I keep saying about Colin Hodette is that he's just throwing the same bag every time. His slide bag is a roll shot. So if you block him, he's just going to throw a slide shot. What happens to jump over your bag? And so for him, I think that actually makes it successful. I actually think why Jeremiah Ellis was so successful last season. I saw him hopping over a lot of bags last season that I'm not seeing as much of this year. But the idea was anytime someone tries to get in his way, he just has a way over it without having to be overly aggressive. So, in the end, I think it's going to be, interesting. Jordan Power, of course, waits one event to make me look smart on the hot take that he'd make the Final Four in singles and doubles. But I go back to the fact that, I think he's going to be, a really, really tough player to beat. Derek Holland, long time coming. And because I think he's always just been close. He's just never got to the end. But the story, leads me to say it's going to be, Logan Chamberlain continuing to play at a high level. One thing I want to tease, as we know, we'll cover these in a couple weeks, which is like what our top seeds are going to look like in each bracket, just the top 2 seeds, right? Now we can dive into who else could come through them, but if we talk about singles, your top 2 seeds in your A bracket are going to be Jamie Graham and Trey Birchfield, right? And actually the 3rd seed in that bracket would be Gavin Cano. So Jamie Graham, Trey Birchfield, Gavin Cano is going to be no, hold on. No, wait, I did that wrong. It's going to be Jamie Graham. No, it is going to be Jamie Graham, Trey Birchfield, Gavin Cano in one bracket, right? Tony Smith is the 2 seed with the 7 overall seed Logan Chamberlain, right? And then you throw in a Justin Burton Jr. in there. You're going to have Logan Chamberlain and JBJ within the same bracket, which will be tough. 3 seed, it's going to be Mark Richards, Sammy Soto, and Derek Holland. Of the draws I've seen so far, I kind of like that one for Mark, right? I mean, I think that shapes up well. And then the last one is going to be Jay Rubin, Austin Wasco, and Gabe Clausen, right? And so that's take that with what you will. If we go to the double side in rankings, Tony Smith and Mark Richards will play in the same bracket as Quinn Reeves and Austin Wasco. That's the 2nd seed. And the 3rd seed is Matt and Brett Guy. I don't know who gets in that way.
Yeah.
The 2 seed would be Jamie Graham and Jacob Trzynski. They're in a bracket with Braden Wilson and AJ Sims, as well as Alex Rawls and Derek Holland. Maybe. JBJ and Logan Chamberlain will play with Devin Harbaugh and Jeremiah Ellis, as well as Colby Shearer and Matt Wilson. That feels a little bit more up in the air, I guess. And then finally, Sammy Soto and Gavin Cano, Jordan Power and Cheyenne Bubenheim, Ethan Walker and Cody Henderson. So that one should be a lot of fun. But anyway, I just want to kind of tease that and preview that before we get into the brackets as we in the next couple of weeks to kind of preview what teams are going to go head-to-head and have to start self-scouting each other for the World Championships.
Which I think would be wise. I definitely would suggest that. Getting into our other winners, women's singles did go to Samantha Finley, doubles Sarah Cassidy and Elizabeth Tennyson, senior singles Steve Schrader, senior doubles Terry Mathis and Pat Sem, and junior singles Gabriel Clausen gets as well as doubles with Ethan Farias. Wally, thoughts on our women's senior and junior winners?
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see Steve Schrader finally, cross that finish line against Damon Dennis. It's been Damon Dennis's to run with the entire time. I saw that he finally found some sunglasses to make it on the court, and he looked to be great. I don't necessarily I don't want to sound like I'm taking anything away from Steve, because Steve shot great. He hit some shots, but Damon just didn't look as sharp as I expected him to look on that broadcast court. I don't know what it was. I remember watching him in person. He got that foot foul called against him on the bright light. So I'm wondering if there's any type of, I got to, mind my P's and Q's with an official here and the bright lights or something going on. I don't know, but it was nice to see Steve Schrader finally punch his ticket. I know he's been wanting that for a long time. Definitely proud of him. Seniors doubles, though, seeing a new team pop up there and Terry Mathis and Pat Sim, it's kind of one of these things where it's like, oh, how did they win? But then you're like, oh, they're really good. So I guess I kind of understand that. But the doubles team that I want to talk about, Sarah Cassidy and Elizabeth Tennyson, it seems like they have been doing a phenomenal job, not just in the women's bracket, but in doubles brackets as well. They're kind of that sleeper team that Rosie and Sam were a couple years ago, going back in Corpus Christi, where it's like, oh, keep an eye out for these girls. They're not getting the respect that they deserve as far as the conversations go. But whenever you actually see the results, they're actually taking out some tough teams. They're throwing very, very well, somewhere in the mid-10s. And then ultimately Sam Finley taking down women's, same things. Saw a foot foul called against her on the broadcast court. She was an emotional wreck coming off of that match, but able to hold it all together here and throw very, very well. She didn't look like she was bothered by who she was playing at all. She stayed in her element, and she's bringing a little bit of that defensive style of play with the roll bag and the cut shots that, quite frankly, the women's division has needed for a long time. So seeing her step up there on the big stage was really, really impressive.
Yeah, speaking of really impressive, Cheyenne coming back. I mean, Riley Schaaf, I thought she was going to run away with it. Cheyenne did exactly what she does as a veteran. She knew exactly how to handle that situation. It did not worry her. It didn't seem like it worried her. She was like, oh, I know what to do here. Super impressive from Cheyenne. I know she's not the one winning everything like she has in the past, but that was just such a pinnacle moment where you're like, oh yeah, she's very comfortable on this stage.
Yeah. If I jump in, I would say that Cheyenne, that game was Cheyenne at the best of her ability. I mean, just insanity. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about Sam Finley, though, because this was, overcoming all of the demons when it comes to Sam Finley. So if you really get to know Sam, there's a couple things that you'll find in that. Number one, she is adamant that outside, except for like a finals match, right? She has played Sarah Cassidy hundreds of times, and Sarah always seems to have her number, right? And so that was a big worry for Sam coming into it, because she was saying, okay, I got to play the person on the broadcast court right out of the gate that I just, for whatever reason, Sarah always throws exceptional against me. Beats Sarah, checks that box. Then we actually rewind, and before we even talk about the finals, we talk about how Cheyenne has dominated the standings, and for 4 straight seasons prior to this one has finished the year as the Woman of the Year, the number 1 ranked woman. Well, it is now official. With rankings updated and done, Sam Finley is the new ACL Woman of the Year, finishing ahead of Cheyenne in singles based on the performance from this past weekend. So that was a demon to get over, that she couldn't finish ahead of Cheyenne in the standings. Then she gets to the finals, right? And she has to play Cheyenne. The woman she has played in a round-limited format in the finals 3 times, who she has lost to 3 times. And now for her in a round-limited format to finally beat Cheyenne, get the win, get the Woman of the Year, get the title, like that, to me, it was almost like the world just opened up for Sam. And like all of the things that she's been working for all kind of culminate to that. And then you add into it, we just ran standings today, right? Like I said, who was the last person to qualify for the top 100? The last line, Samantha Finley. Last person to get into the... Now, again, we've expanded the pro field, but that top 100 gets those extra benefits. And Sam Finley being number 100 is like one of the coolest things ever. And so when you look at it top to bottom, to me, this is a story about, Sam Finley putting in her time, putting in the work, and then getting the reward in the end. And I think that was, a really, really special and really cool thing to watch her and be a part of it. And it speaks to what Wally was talking about with the evolution of her game and being able to play more of a defensive shot-making type of game. If there's only other thought I kind of have for my end is just on Gabriel Clausen. Slowly finishes the season in a really strong manner. And if there's anything I'm starting to learn from Clausen is that really dangerous player when it comes to round limited formats, because he just swept junior singles. If you remember, he took the entire pro singles down at the first signature of the season, that was a round limited format. So when we start identifying who is good in these round limited formats, we've always talked about people like Eric Davis being atop there, but now I would even add in Gabriel Clausen becoming someone that in a round limited format is really dangerous, and that's just in time for us to get rid of the round limited format and never play it again. So that's too bad, I guess.
Cool stat,
for
Gabe.
Well, one thing about the round limited format is that you look at the standings and you look at a lot of the names up top, is that those guys are risk takers. You know what I mean? They are some of the best shot makers in the game. And when you have round limited format, if one of those shots doesn't go their way early in the game, they're going to be hesitant to throw it later on in the game. They're going to kind of change their playing style. Meanwhile, a lot of the other players, they could just run high PPRs and catch them off guard. I don't know if you saw Matt Guy made a post about throwing an 11.01 or something in 70 rounds and finishing ninth place in his bracket. Like, sometimes you just get caught. So I think the round limited format was fun because it brought out an opportunity, as we saw, no number one seeds. It brought out an opportunity for some of these players to just do what they do really, really well. If you can catch a top guy from making these, electric shots, the backside coin slots or rolls or air mills or whatever, or the pushes really is what's, separating the best of the best right now. But I think that, it's sad to go for me. I'm sad to see it go. I like having variety. I've talked about it plenty of times where if you have any pro, I don't care who it is, give me the 256th ranked pro. If I issue a challenge out there to them to throw a can of Bush's baked beans through a hole 35 feet away, they're going to believe that they can do it. So for some reason, they don't believe that they can win a 12-round limited format game. Get out of here. Bunch of crybabies.
That I actually love that you brought that up on the stream, Wally. I thought it was a perfect analogy. You guys, if you've never been to an event, you don't see what all these players do, but they push the boards close together and they play this close board game. They grab the mini boards and they play mini boards. So don't tell me that you don't think it's fun to play cornhole some other way other than the traditional format. I'm with you, Wally. Not buying it. We can't get them off the boards in whatever way we'll give it to them. So, no. All right, getting into our teams. We have our teams that have made it into playoffs. In the American Division semifinals, it'll be the Pennsylvania Ringers versus the Virginia Cutters and the Carolina Coasters versus the New England Woodchucks. For the National Division, it'll be Arizona Burn versus the Texas Bullybaggers and the Kentucky Colonels versus the California Slingers. I am shocked that we made it. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't sure if the Slingers were going to be able to do it. It's been a weird season, but I'm also curious to know, Trey, if we're going to have, that same kind of finish where we're just riding chemistry and pipe dreams to get to the end, or if it's going to come down to the best team out there.
Yeah, look, I'll jump in a little bit and give some of my thoughts. One is going to be on those California Slingers. Isn't this exactly what they did last year? They weren't close, and they just squeak in, and they made the playoffs by one game over the Las Vegas High Rollers. Mind you, a losing record overall, right? But they just squeak into the playoffs, into that National West Division, and the Arizona Burn took that one down. Second thought from me, the Kentucky Colonels come into the fifth signature in Utica in third place in the division. They go on this unprecedented run to not only make the playoffs, but they take the number one seed away from the Texas Bullybaggers within that region. So as a result, the Colonels get to play the Slingers rather than having to play the Arizona Burn, which I think is great news there. Tidbit for you. I had a chance to talk to Jamie Graham, and I said, when I was doing compiling the final standings, and I said, oh, there it is. The Carolina Coasters will play the New England Woodchucks. And his reaction was, ugh. He did not want to play the Woodchucks. So I thought that was a fun little tidbit, especially because obviously his doubles partner and Jacob Trzynski is on the Woodchucks. I thought that was an interesting dynamic there. But then I go all the way back to the Pennsylvania Ringers. I think they got to be viewed over the course of the team series, which is now, I'd say, 3 to 4 years long, right? We had that first year where we had a little bit of a different format, but going into the past 3 years, I think the Ringers have to be the most well-managed team, right? They're going, they have the best record. They finished with the best record in the regular season. And if they go on to win the team's championship, that'll be their second in 3 years. I think they're a really, really good team led by a good leader in Devin Harbaugh. Justin Burton Jr. also a strong presence there. I think that they're going to be really, really tough to beat. But they're going against a team that's really motivated. First time ever making the playoffs in the Virginia Cutters. I think they're really excited to say that and to accomplish that. And I think the Cutters will be well motivated in order to keep their good season alive and keep it churning.
So Matt Guy asked him what has been working when they came on the live stream court and they did really well. And I said, what's different? He said, yellow shirts. Every time they wear the yellow shirts, they win. And I'm just a little worried about that superstition because what if they can't wear that shirt? So I don't know if that's how they finished out the season. But I asked other members of their team and they said the same thing. So it's about the shirt, question mark? Wally?
Oh, what? They are the higher seed, so I guess they can make the Slingers throw whatever they want.
Okay, there you go. So. There it is.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because, I look at teams as like fantasy cornhole in a way. You get to pick your squad at the beginning of the year, and I want to see how it, shapes up at the end, like how you finish. So it's kind of interesting that some of these teams got there not necessarily off of how they drafted. Like the New England Woodchucks, they drafted a starting 7. This is the 7 players I want to roll with. But then they kind of had to piece it together by picking up players and dropping players down the stretch. The Coasters just kind of seemed to have everybody thrown at them. You know what I mean? The Marauders didn't want to pick. The High Rollers didn't want to pick. Everybody just gave the Coasters players, and Jamie did a pretty good job of managing throughout the rest of the way. The Virginia Cutters, got to give them props. I thought they were the worst team last year. It showed in the standings. But to come all the way back and earn a playoff spot, they are going to have their hands full with the Pennsylvania Ringers. And I think it's going to be interesting how all these teams kind of line up because there are some well-rounded teams as far as putting together a solid 10, 12 players, on a squad. That is a strong team, but that's not what the playoffs are going to be about. The playoffs are going to be about who could have the strongest starting lineup. And I look at teams like the Pennsylvania Ringers, the Carolina Coasters, and the New England Woodchucks, and as well as the Texas Bullybaggers. And I think that those guys on paper have the strongest shot at making the finals just because of their starting 7.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, we have new standings to present. Trey kind of went through some of them earlier, but let's bring them on the screen here and take a look. You can find these at iPlayCornhole.com or theacl.com. Just click on standings, and you can look at all the different ones there, but we'll start with singles. And let me get rid of this real quick. This looks different, Trey. Why is everything different? What is happening right now?
No idea. Talking about.
Oh, there it is.
Different.
Yeah, it's all different looking. I'm like, where did it go? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, Jamie Graham is your number 1 player, followed by Tony Smith, Mark Richards, Jay Rubin, Austin Wasco, Sammy Soto, Logan Chamberlain, Trey Birchfield, and Gavin Cano are tied at 8, and then Justin Burton Jr. at 10. Those are your top 10 singles. Trey, your thoughts?
Yeah. Shout out Jamie Graham. That's a nice check. Again, so as a reminder for everybody that the World Championships do not count for standings this year, simply because it has more of a playoff type of feel. You had to qualify for that final bracket, and those that haven't qualified will get one more shot to do so at the end. So, so shout out Jamie Graham. He gets the Man of the Year trophy, and he gets that nice payout, nice $10,000 check to Mr. Graham, and so I know he's excited about that. And I think this weekend, if anything, it made the MVP race a little bit interesting, and I was hoping to see maybe a final of some of these guys, but then none of them made the Final Four in singles. So it's like it kind of goes back to what do we think is the most important. Personally, I think my ballot will go to Mark Richards as far as my MVP vote goes. Be interested to see. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next couple of weeks. But top 10 wise, there's not a ton of shockers here. I mean, Logan Chamberlain obviously being in here was I think maybe a little bit of a surprise being all the way at 7. But when you win an event like he did this weekend and he's very consistent, kind of changes his mentality. I think overall that's that speaks to how good of a player he is. So overall, not a ton of shock for me. overall in the rankings. If I do make one other note, is that our last player to qualify for the brackets at Worlds was Levi Haddock at 1,901 points, and I got a message from Dave Morse this morning. Dave Morse missed qualifying for the bracket and not having to pre-qualify by 3 points. So he finishes 34th, needed to be top 32 in order to get into the singles bracket. So a tough day for Dave Morse. If you know Dave, give him a hug. He needs one.
Wally, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. You talk about the MVP race winding down. I think that we do need to throw Logan Chamberlain on that ballot. He has had a strong doubles performance, and now with this win in singles, it's kind of like a, hey, look at me. I deserve some type of credit as well. As Jay Rubin, Mark, Tony, and Jamie going on there. So for me, it's a 5-headed race. Ultimately, I probably am going to tip it to Mark. I got to look at it a little bit closer there. The surprising one for me is number 8, like Trey Birchfield. I can't remember seeing Trey Birchfield other than the one time in Mesa where I think he got double dipped by Zach Aiken, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that, I don't remember Trey Birchfield having a strong season at all. So he must have just had a whole bunch of second and third place finishes going there. Rounding out the top 20, want to give credit and a shout out to my guy Mason Trader. Sneaking in the top 20 is pretty huge there for him. And then also tying there with Ethan Walker and Spencer Fabianar. So Spencer, he's been pretty good with a lot of different people in doubles, but to see him have that good of a run in singles as well, shout out to those guys climbing into the top 20.
What about Devin Harbaugh, 22?
Yeah. That's kind of surprising, a little jarring to me. I want to go back to that comment you made about that ballot. Okay, 5 people on a ballot. Jamie Graham, Tony Smith, Mark Richards, Jay Rubin, right? Yeah. You don't think Logan deserves to be in there? You're not going to put Sammy on there?
I mean, Logan Chamberlain's got a singles victory. Sammy Soto's had a lot of good finishes, but able to close it out gives him the nod over Sammy Soto for me.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
All right. Getting into doubles, of course, the super team of Mark Richards and Tony Smith at 4,140 points. In second place, Jamie Graham and Jake Brzezinski, 4,074 points. So bit of a drop off, unlike singles where everybody was within a few points. Third place is going to be Justin Burton Jr. and Logan Chamberlain. Fourth, Sammy Soto, Gavin Cano. Fifth, Jordan Power and Cheyenne Bubenheim. Sixth, Devin Harbaugh and Jeremiah Ellis. Seventh, Braden Wilson, AJ Sims. Tied for eighth would be Quinn Reeves and Austin Wasco and Brett and Matt Guy. And then at number 10, Alex Rawls and Derek Holland. And I meant to say it before, but I'll say it here. In singles, 5 out of the 10, Texas. In doubles, 7 out of the 20, Texas. Texas is taking over, guys.
Don't let Chase know.
Yeah, don't say that out loud. Don't say that too loud. So, yeah, a couple things to me. One, kind of like what you were talking about with Trey Birchfield in singles, Wally, to me, it's like Alex Rawls and Derek Holland finished in the top 10. Like, it's just a sneaky top 10 season when I really didn't think they had that great of a year, to be honest with you. I think the same can be said a little bit for Quinn Reeves and Austin Wasco. I mean, we didn't see them as much, but that's just something that caught my eye. Shout out Zach Akins and Jeremiah Hector. I mean, not only the top 20, but they're into the main final bracket. That secures their pro card last season. I mean, for next season. And if I look at, let me see where they are in singles each. Jeremiah Hector is 78, did not come close to keeping his pro card. He came a little bit close to keeping his pro card in the top 100. And then Zach Akins is 93. So this is the team that together, they earned their pro card by being a top 15 team because they weren't going to get it in singles. Just really, really impressive work there. And then, top 20, also Riker Wells and Frank Verona. It's just not a team that I would have pegged to be a top 20 team by the end of the season, especially when you consider our reigning world champions are going to have to play in a challenger bracket, folks. I mean, and okay, here's the funny part. Our the challenger brackets, you are going to have both of the finalists from last year's World Championships. Both Alan Rawls and Chris Kingsbury and Trey Birchfield and Adam Hissner have to qualify their way into the World Championship bracket. I mean, that is madness to me. Like, just absolutely wild. And I think I actually really like it, like this added level of, just intensity. So everything else feels right to me, borderline where I thought everybody would finish. And got some really, really good teams there in the top 6.
Yeah, I was actually surprised Ryan Wiedenfeld and Ryan Smith at 25. I feel like that is a slow start to the season, but finished pretty strong there. Wally?
Yeah, so I was going to touch base on Ryan Wiedenfeld and Ryan Smith since they didn't get to play in the first signature together. Missing out on that points. It's not necessarily that you're trying to accumulate all the points. You have to give yourself a bad weekend, and whenever you eliminate the possibility to just have a bad weekend, not to mention missing the very first one puts you in a tough spot in brackets going forward. So you're always going to have to play a tough team right out of the gate. And sometimes that's good. You get a little pop in the jaw in the boxing match. You're like, oh, I'm in this. Okay, let's go. But other times if you get knocked down, you're like, oh, I'm in a lot of trouble here. But, the flip side of that coin, I want to give credit to Hayden Gonzalez and Gabriel Clausen because they did not qualify for every single signature either. And then finishing in 21st, that goes to show you that they made good work out of what they actually attended. But looking at these standings, I find it kind of interesting because I basically break it down into 3 tiers. At the very top, you got your champions. Any one of those, top 3 or 4 teams, they could be champions. And then after that, you have your cannot finishes. Like just something about them is stopping them from finishing. Kano, Bubenheim, Harbaugh, Sims, Wilson, Wasco, Matt Guy, Brett Guy. Like those teams, they feel like they're right there, and then they just let it go. They're in charge of an entire match, and then something happens where they give up a big round or whatever, and they can't finish. And then the tier below that is we could beat everybody 1 time. But can you beat them 2 times or 3 times to finish out a bracket? So the top 10 is pretty much exactly how I expected it to be as far as the names go. But I want to see somebody from the mid to bottom 10 contend with the top because, like you said, it's a landslide in numbers. I don't see anybody contending with those top 3. What's that? What?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Ugh. I keep myself muted because you never know when a dog's going to bark in this house. But sometimes I forget to click unmute. All right, Trey, it is time for hot takes. What do you got for us?
All right, so just to refresh everybody on challenger brackets, you're only going to have 24 teams in the final pro doubles championship bracket. That's going to crown a champion. 20 of those are pre-qualified. You literally go 1 through 20 in the standings right now. Those are going to be the people in that pro doubles tournament. But then there's 4 spots for these 4 other tournaments. You got to win your entire tournament. I truly believe that if you have enough momentum to go through a gauntlet of those challenger brackets and win your bracket, it means they're throwing really, really well for that particular weekend. So I'm going to say that one of the challenger bracket winners also makes it to the final 4 of the Pro Doubles Championship. You're looking at teams like Alan Rawls and Chris Kingsbury, Ryan Smith and Ryan Wiedenfeld, Adam Hissner and Trey Birchfield. I mean, there's a number of great, great teams down here throughout the West. I'm going to say that one of those teams makes it all the way to the Final 4.
I like it. Wally, what you got?
I got the perfect 5-pick parlay for every bettor out there. This is guaranteed to hit. I'm giving you Damon Dennison seniors. I'm giving you Gabriel Clausen and juniors. I've never done this before, but I'm giving you Cheyenne Bubenheim in women's. I'm not backing off of it. Gavin Cano and Sammy Soto in doubles. And then we're going chalk Mark Richards in singles. Parlay it. Take it to the bank. Happy retirement.
Am I back? I froze. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay. Mine is super simple. Nobody would ever guess that I would have this hot take. Cali Slingers make it to the finals. Let's go. They got to do it. I mean,
First round elimination now.
No, come on now. You can do it.
Finally actually has a hot take. Ending the season with finally a hot take.
All right. That's all we got time for. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.